Good evening to all of you. Justice E.R. Swaminathan, besides being a High Court judge, he is my esteemed brother, Swami Vimurtananda, Ashok Maharaj, Srikant, Mr. Dr. V. Krishnaswamy, and other dignitaries who are present here. At the outset, I thank Swami Vimurtananda, Adhyaksha Ramakrishna Amar, for being in your midst today. Equally, I thank Thanjavur Bar for organizing this event, advocates, molders of the society. When Maharaj Vimurtananda asked me, what is the subject? I chose this subject. That is the eminent lawyers of yesteryears. I thought it is an easy subject to speak, therefore I chose that, not for any other reason. The enumeration of legal personages is not exhaustive or fully illustrative, which I am going to give to you. Originally, I wanted to confine myself to the lawyers belonging to the southern part of India for want of time, and later a few more other parts of this country are included, lest I may not be dubbed as parochial. In fact, the Thanjavur Bar has produced very leading lawyers. To name a few, Andikadu Baloyar, I have heard of him. He was the leader of the bar. Then Jagatrashaga Iyengar, Ganesha Iyer, that is the father of G. Ramaswamy and G. Subramanyam, Motor Raghavachari, T. Srinivasa Iyengar, T. S. Parthasarathi Iyengar, Ramachandran, Mr. R. Perumal, former Bar Council member, and Thanjai Ramamurthy, Bar Council member. There are so many great personalities which this bar has produced. And I always consider the Thanjavur Bar and the Coimbatore Bar are the best in the entire South. To begin with, I thought of referring to Muhammad Ali Karim Chagla, that is MC Chagla. MC Chagla always emphasized intellectual integrity being fundamental and most valued, because without it, a man cannot call his soul his own. According to him, there is no sin worse than sinning against the light. Wherever your light might be, there is no turpitude greater than changing your convictions, order to conform to prevailing standards than to please the High and Almighty. He was a true nationalist to the core and believed in true secularism, which means equal respect to all faiths and beliefs. His children married outside the community and thus practiced national integration. He followed the theory to quote, "My country, right or wrong, if right, keep right, if wrong, to set right." Quotation Roses. His autobiography, Roses in December, that is the title of the book, makes a delightful reading. Late N.A. Palkiwala remarked that roses will remain fragrant for many a December. He resigned as Chief Justice in 1958 responding to the call of the then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, and became India's ambassador to Washington and then to Cuba. He rendered magnificent service in his assignments. He became Union Minister and was in the cabinet of Jawaharlal Nehru, Lal Bahadur Shastri, Indira Gandhi, holding portfolio of education and external affairs. He resigned from the cabinet in the year 1967 and came back to the bar and was an active practice in the Honorable Supreme Court. He was the best in fighting for judicial independence in 1973 and 77. His speech in Ahmedabad on 12/10/1975 at the height of emergency is worthy of a place in every anthology of English eloquence. He was a member of International Court of Justice as an ad hoc judge to hear the case in which Portugal claimed to have right of passage through the territory of India. He also headed the one-man commission as retired Chief Justice for the Bombay High Court, which probed into LIC Mundra deal, otherwise known as Mundra scandal. He framed terms of reference and insisted that one of the reference should be to fix the responsibility for the purchase by Life Insurance Corporation of India in a private enterprise. Though the then minister was not willing to incorporate such a term in the reference, ultimately accepted the request of sole commission of Mundra scandal. The scandal related to the investment of 1 crore, which was a big amount at that time, in a private enterprise by Life Insurance Corporation of India, a statutory body incorporated under the Life Insurance Corporation Act. It is significant that Chagla insisted that he would examine the witnesses himself and did so. When the then Finance Minister wanted to meet the sole commission appointed under the Commission of Enquiry during the course of enquiry, Mr. Chagla politely refused. He was appointed on 7/1/1958. The enquiry opened on 20th January 1958 and concluded on 5/2/1958. His report is dated 10/2/1958, which is considered to be as one of the most judicious documents. Mr. M.C. Setalvad, who was the then Attorney General, made it clear to the government as the Attorney General of India that it was not his duty or responsibility to look after either the interest of the government or the minister or the central government, but would place all materials before the Commission of Enquiry headed by M.C. Chagla. Mr. Chagla found, on the basis of evidence filed produced before him, that the investment made by Life Insurance Corporation of India was unbusinesslike and imprudent. This finding led to the resignation of the then Finance Minister. Then I want to say a few words about Nani Palkhiwala. Nanabai Ardeshar Palkhiwala was gentle in manners, unfailingly deferential to court, and faultlessly polite and courteous. He was a great charmer who charmed everyone, including his opponent and the judges. He pursued a legal point with utmost clarity. He was extremely polite but firm. His clarity of mind for research and originality was his hallmark. He had the courage of conviction. He lived according to his own light and heeded to his inner voice. In a well-known British Blitz case, Palkhiwala appeared for the newspaper, and he had the courage or the frankness to speak about the person who opposed him. In that case, one K.L. Mishra appeared for the respondent. When the matter came up before the division bench, which was presided over by Chief Justice Sagla, Palkhiwala told the court that Mishra had simply mesmerized the single judge, to which the Chief Justice asked how one can be sure that he could not do the same to the appellate bench also. Late Kanga, after listening to Mishra's argument, observed that I have been comparing Mr. Mishra with a large number of advocates who had come to Bombay High Court from various other states, but none touched the height of Mr. Mishra. I have not heard much about Mishra, but I understand he was a very, very leading lawyer from the Allahabad High Court. Siddharth Shankar Ray, who was the former governor of Punjab and chief minister of West Bengal, said that Mishra secured 91% in English in his graduate examination and 100% in his English essay paper in the ISC examination. Chief Justice Earl Warren paid a tribute to Mishra, saying that, to quote him, I as a judge of the Supreme Court of America should not be emotional, but I must confess, though I have travelled all over the globe, but never was moved more emotionally than by the speech of the learned Advocate General of Uttar Pradesh, Mr. K.L. Mishra, today. That is, I took it from the post-centenary Silver Jubilee commemoration volume published by the Allahabad High Court. Nani Palkiwala never accepted any professional payment without issuing a receipt, and his income tax returns truly reflected his income, which was fabulous. While he was highly critical of the extortionate tax rates and government policy, he recorded his income fully and never deviated from the law in fulfilling his tax obligations. Nani Palkiwala was meticulous and orderly in everything, right from sharpening the pencils and arranging them, or arranging his own books, or taking care of them, or polishing his shoes. He loved and respected his parents in various ways. His book, India's Priceless Heritage and Unity of All Religions, apart from reflecting his great respect for Hinduism, shows his amazing grasp of Vedantic philosophy and deep insight into the eternal truth. Nani Palkiwala was associated with a number of educational, cultural and charitable institutions to which he made various contributions. He gave a donation of 2 crores to Shankar Netralaya at Chennai as a token contribution. He believed in Gandhian concept of trusteeship, that is, we earn the income and hold the income for the benefit of the society. That was his philosophy. It is to his credit that he argued Keshavananda Bharati's case and upheld the constitutional values. The Supreme Court accepted his argument that there are inherent limitations in amending power of Parliament which disentitles the Parliament to destroy or alter the essential basic features of the Constitution. It was the first time in constitutional adjudication anywhere in the world a constitutional amendment was struck down on the ground of violation of the basic structure. The judgment put a salutary check on the tendency to encroach upon the fundamental rights. He saved the Constitution for the people and for posterity. This doctrine was later applied in various other cases. Nani Palkiwala was appointed as an ambassador to the US. He represented the best and noble traditions of the bar. Justice K.R. Khanna remarked that Nani Palkiwala's performance in Keshavananda Bharati's case was never surpassed or equaled by anybody else. He was a true defender of the constitutional liberties and champion of human rights. He raised his torch of freedom during the emergency. He urged that lawyers should fulfill their legitimate role in national life, which is well beyond looking after their self-interest, and keep in mind the interest of the system of administration of justice. Then I come to say a few words about the Mannin Maindan. Dr. C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer. Dr. C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer was enrolled as a lawyer in 1903. He started his practice on the original side of the High Court with no outside help. He joined his brother-in-law C.V. Kumarasamy Sastry, who on account of his physical ailment was in need of assistance of C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer. V. Bhashyam was the first Vakil Advocate General in India to breach the citadel of barrister dominance in the judiciary from the appellate side of the High Court. Likewise, C.V. Kumaraswamy Sastry did the same on the original side. C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer had the extraordinary ability and the infinite capacity for hard work which contributed to his phenomenal success in the bar. C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer believed that there are two requisites for success in the legal profession. Number one, having the constitution of an ox. Number two, the other being the patience of an ass. He excelled in so many spheres. He worked for the country's freedom. According to his own independent ideas, he maintained a very high level of courage, administrative ability, scholarism, and patriotism. He achieved significant success as an Indian administrator. He introduced the Temple Entry Proclamation and opened the temples to the so-called untouchables in the peak of great opposition as the Diwan of Travancore. It is unimaginable that in an orthodox state like Travancore, Temple Entry Proclamation was possible but for C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer's enthusiasm for reforms. He earned the encomium of the nation and gratitude to the downtrodden. As the Diwan of Travancore, he was a member of the education team. He planned the metro, Mettur and Paikara projects. Paikara was the first hydroelectric dam in the state. He held very important positions in our country with great distinction. His work as an educationist in Annamalai University and Banaras Hindu University has been of great value, and he contributed to cultural renaissance of the country. He had immense intellectual versatility. To quote one instance, it seems he was invited for a lecture by some great man in the Mylapore club. Unfortunately, on that day evening, the speaker fell ill, and C.P. Ramaswamy was sitting in the first row. Somebody made a request to him to speak on the subject. Extempore, he spoke on the subject. That was his versatility. He was a scholar of great repute and was the distinguished son of Tamil Nadu. Paikara and Mettur are moments of his farsightedness and ability. He was part of the Home Rule agitation under the inspiring leadership of Dr. Annie Besant. Sir C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer was a valuable and trusted lieutenant of Dr. Annie Besant, even though he appeared against Dr. Annie Besant in the guardianship case known as Narayanaya versus Annie Besant. Sir C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer piloted the irrigation bill leading to the emergence of Mettur Dam and Paikara hydroelectric dam. He was the star of Round Table Conference during 1928 and 1931. He introduced the Malabar Tenancy Bill. No doubt he was the one who confronted Gandhiji during 1938 and 39. He was an economic wizard. He was the Vice Chancellor of Annamalai University and Banaras Hindu University. He was a member of the Hindu Religious Commission. He was the first person who advocated linking of various rivers of India. To quote his words, to link up Ganges, the Mahanadi, the Godavari, and the Krishna with rivers to the south, beginning from the Pennar and Palar and going to the Kaveri and Tamrabarani, may today seem a fantastically grandiose idea. But even if the work is taken up by stages and by degrees, it is well to keep the idea in view and to labor towards it in well-planned stages, not necessarily concentrating on a number of large-scale projects at the same time, but following the example already indicated by France and Switzerland, where many small units are integrated and collated for wisely designed and truly national purpose. I wish those who are in power earlier followed his idea, and those who are yet to come in power, many of you may be there, please remember the words of C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer to linking up the rivers, which is of utmost importance, which can solve the inter-state disputes between the states. Then a few words about Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was known as the Iron Man of India. I had the good fortune of reading the book indomitable Sardar when he was in school. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was a great freedom fighter besides being an astute administrator. After independence, he brought about the integration of princely states and redrew the map of India. Mrs. Sarojini Naidu described him as follows: with his stern, rugged, and grey exterior, he is like an iron casket and holds rare and hidden gems of devotion, sweetness, and charm. Unquote. He was a great man who saw that the independence was fully achieved. He brought about integration of all states in the Union Territory. It was said about Augustus that it would have been better for Rome if Augustus had never been born and never died. This can be said of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. He was an efficient administrator for the country. He believed that a good administrator must have a character which is fundamental requirement and should be able to take up speedy decisions with due consultation or discussion without any procrastination. It is equally important that the decisions taken are executed and persons executing them must feel that it is a service to the society. There is a story then that some stone cutters were working at the Raj Bhavan at Madras. One of them was asked, "What are you doing?" And his reply was, "I am cutting stone." He asked a second man, "What are you doing?" And his reply was, "I am cutting a stone." He asked a third man, and his reply was, question was put to the third man, who answered, "Sir, I am chiseling a Buddha image." The same question when put to the fourth man, he replied, "Sir, we are building Gandhi Mandapam to serve as a holy center for prayer." It is the last man's feeling that must be infused among all others. Such was the character of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Character is as important for administration at every level, just like sunlight is to every form of life. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel is one of the greatest statesmen that India has produced. He was an iron man who brought together ill-assorted administrative units by integrating more than 550 princely states. This happened only on account of wisdom and strength of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Equally, I read only yesterday in some book when Manekshaw was the head of the 3 Indian armed forces. Some trouble arose in Kashmir, and he went and asked Nehru about it. He was just dilly-dallying without giving any reply. Then Sardar Patel was the Home Minister. He said, "Do you want Kashmir or not?" And the reply was immediately given by Nehru saying, "I want Kashmir." Then he told Manekshaw, "You go ahead and do whatever you want to." That was his courage. He never bothered, even though he was the Deputy Prime Minister and Home Minister at that time. Perhaps had he been made the Prime Minister, we would have had different nation today. Like Germany before the French Revolution, India was patchwork of number of provinces and hundreds of tiny and big states ruled by various chiefs enjoying various degree of autonomy under the British rule. It was on account of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel's wisdom, determination, and political skill he brought about consolidation and merger of 600 states comprising of an area of nearly 5 lakh square miles. Even in an emergent situation, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was completely fearless, like a flame in a windless spot which does not flicker. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was a man of action and not of words. His main interest was in home affairs. He accepted non-violence as an useful political weapon for wresting independence from the hands of British, but not as an article of morality or universal remedy. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel disagreed on many issues publicly and privately with Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, though they had immense respect for each other's contribution to Indian political and social life. On one occasion, in an interministerial meeting to consider the resolution of problem of Goa, various proposals are put forward, and one such a proposal was to put pressure on the regime of Goa. Rajaji raised the discussion to an altogether ethereal plan and said that after all, Goans were brothers and that we should not do anything which might cause hardship to them, then that we should win over them by love. But Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel said that he had no such illusions because he knew how little amenable the Portuguese government was to the method of persuasion. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel's death on 15/12/1950 plunged the whole country into grief, and it was said of him, a maker of history had passed into history. That was the greatness of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Then I want to say a few words about M.C. Settleward. M.C. Settleward was an Advocate General of Bombay from 1937 to 42. He was a member of the Indian delegation to the General Assembly of United Nations. He was the delegate for India to the Security Council when it took up to Kashmir issue in 1948. He was India's first Attorney General of India and headed the Constitutional Office for a period of 12 years. He was the chairman of Law Commission. His father, Chimalal Settleward, was himself a leading lawyer in Bombay. M.C. Settleward was the junior of Bhulabhai Desai, who was another very leading lawyer of Bombay and was a freedom fighter. It was K.M. Munshi, if I remember right, was one of the able juniors of Bhulabhai Desai. He not only inherited the virtues of his father, but also multiplied and refined the same. No doubt, he had early period of waiting, during which he spent for reading law reports. At one point, he thought of taking up a job, and before his thought could materialize, fortune smiled on him and he started getting regular work. He was uniformly pleasant and discussed the briefs with his juniors, correcting them and guiding them, and often told his juniors that given the time and application and necessary luck, there was no magic in being a leader of the bar. He was offered judgeship at the age of 45, which he declined, as also the offer of being the first Indian Chief Justice of Bombay. He believed in separating the essentials from the non-essentials and thereafter conducted the cases, and he was always concise and up to the point. He was courteous but a formidable opponent, and his very presence in court lent dignity. He never believed in putting a case too high and never indulged in melodrama. He believed in putting across the point in briefest possible space of time. He was appointed as the Advocate General for Bombay when late K.M. Munshi became the Home Minister. He resigned in 1942 in the wake of Quit India movement. He declined the offer to be knighted. He appeared before the federal court during the period when the Honorable Supreme Court was interpreting the Constitution. In its initial stages, M.C. Settleward was able to render expert assistance in laying down the correct law. He represented the true functions of a law officer of the government, which is stressed in English court, namely, counsel for the crown neither wins nor loses. He is there to state the law and the facts to the court. I wish this quote is followed by all the law officers of the state. No doubt I didn't follow. He set up the practice not according welcome and farewell in court to coming and retiring judges of the Supreme Court, because he believed that welcoming a judge when he takes his seat on the bench savoured of adulation, and making a reference at judge's retirement would require saying nice things about the virtues and qualities of the judge, which probably the bar never had occasion to experience. This added dignity to the independence of the office of Attorney General. His contributions and services as Chairman of Law Commission was monumental. He delivered the Hamlin Lectures in October 1960 in London on the common law in India. Settleward delivered the prestigious Thanjavur Law Lectures of the Calcutta University for 1957 on the relations between the center and states under the Indian Constitution. He was a reform belief that charging heavy fee, not according to the complexity of the case, but according to the stakes involved and the means of the client, would degrade the legal profession to the level of a trade. Now it has come to the level of a trade. He never sought for favor or indulgence from the bench. He would not accept briefs to which he would not do full justice, and never believed in jumping from one court to another. When he was paid 1,700 as fees by the coffee board, he wrote back stating that his daily fees appearance was only 1,600, and for conference rupees 80, and returned the remaining amount of rupees 20. That was the level of his probity and adherence to values. The late MC Setalwar argued the first St. Xavier's case in 1974. The case of the petitioner was argued by Nani Palkiwala and Frank Anthony. The court at that time was evenly balanced. Then came Mr. Setalwar appearing for one of the interveners, a minority institution. All he said was, "Milords, the doubts raised by the Additional Solicitor General have been adequately answered by my friend Mr. Palkiwala and Mr. Anthony. But I would submit that the doubts are resolved long ago in the authoritative judgment of the Chief Justice S.R. Das." Saying this, he turned a full quarter circle, looking each one of the 9 judges in their eyes, and said, "Now, are there any questions that I have to answer? Are there any doubts left in the minds of your lordships for me to dispel?" Not one of the judges asked him a single question. He practiced almost till the end of his life. Justice Krishnaiyer, in his tribute, said, "The late MC Setalwar was not merely a great jurist and persuasive advocate of international renown, but importantly was one of the tallest figures who set high standards for the bench and the bar. By the very power of his presence, made high professional values operational." Today, when the decline and the fall have become deleteriously visible in the 2 sister professions, the memory of Setalwar will be a necessary admonition. I thought of saying a few words about John D. Mayne. John D. Mayne was the foremost member of the Madras Bar. He is not from our motherland. He is from England. He was called to the bar in England, and after a few years of his practice, he settled down in Madras. He wrote a book on the damages, and his commentary on the Indian Penal Code held the field for many decades. There is an interesting episode relating to his book and authority. Late K.M. Munshi, appearing in a criminal case before a bench in the Nagpur High Court, cited Mayne's criminal law. Later, Justice Hidayatullah, who was the Advocate General then, appeared against K.M. Munshi, interrupted him, and said that the law as quoted in the book of Mayne did not state the law accurately. On hearing this, K.M. Munshi got angry and said that was the first time in his experience that Mayne's authority had been questioned and there was no better authority. The Chief Justice, inclining the same view, questioned Hidayatullah as to what was his authority, to which late Hidayatullah answered, Mayne himself in a later edition. Similarly, Mayne's Hindula is a classic and still stated as the highest authority on the subject. The writing of this book took more than 15 years. It is really a wonder as to how an Englishman with no knowledge of Sanskrit texts expounded them with lucidity and accuracy. In fact, the first and second cases reported in the Madras High Court reports, Volume 1, were argued by Mayne. Then I have got a few more names that I don't want to take your time. I just refer to Durgadas Basu. Durgadas Basu was a rare person of manifold achievements. He was one of the great academicians who adorned the High Court bench. He was versatile as an author. His contributions to jurisprudence is not only confined to constitutional law, but different branches of law. He joined the Union Law Ministry in New Delhi and served as legal advisor. He was a member of the Union Law Commission under the chairmanship of Justice T.L. Venkatramaiah, who is again belongs to the Thanjavur. While he was a judge of the Calcutta High Court, as a junior member of a division bench, a case was reserved for judgment and it related to a very heavy matter. Thereafter, the senior judge read out the judgment in court hall. At the end of it, Justice Basu dictated an extempore judgment nearly covering all aspects of the case with reference to all the relevant judgments. After the court rose, the senior judge embraced Basu and asked him how it was possible to dictate the judgment extempore, to which he replied, "You, brother, read the law for this case. I have been reading it for a lifetime. I did not look up and prepare for this case." Durgadas Bas was also a great Sanskrit scholar and was well versed in ancient lore. He was deeply religious and wrote on comparative religion, and his work on the essence of Hinduism is termed exemplary. He was simple in his taste and habits and followed the motto of simple living and high thinking. He was a true scholar and a rishi. Then a few words about Justice V.R. Krishnaiah. V.R. Krishnaiah was a multifaceted personality with signal achievements. Law alone could not contain his diverse interests and talents. He was active in public life and in people's movement. He was elected as a member of the Madras Legislative Assembly and thereafter to the Kerala Legislative Assembly. As a legislator and as minister, he held important portfolios like home law, prison, irrigation and electricity. He was made the judge of the Kerala High Court in 1968. His independence and integrity are borne out by the fact that he declined to allow H.R. Gokhale to call on him in the wake of the then Prime Minister's Indira Gandhi losing the election case in Allahabad High Court. He told Indira Gandhi later at an inaugural V.K. Krishna Menon Memorial Lecture function that the act of imposing internal emergency would not have been approved by her father. She turned away and thereafter never met Justice Krishnaiah. Justice Krishnaiah believed that the Indian Supreme Court is a political institution as much as like US Supreme Court. And he said, law without politics is blind and politics without law is deaf. He blended and balanced judicial activism and judicial restraint. His most significant contribution to the development of constitutional law and constitutionalism is the liberal interpretation of Article 21. He invalidated bar fetters, solitary confinement and handcuffing of accused by interpreting Article 21. He struck a balance between humanizing prison atmosphere and preservation of internal order and discipline. He recognized and protected the rights of under trials, prisoners and convicts and laid down the law that prisoners had access to counsel, legal aid and the right of relative being informed of the arrest. He believed that silence is not a virtue when there is a duty to speak and shared Dante's view that the hottest place in hell are reserved for those who in a time of great moral crisis maintain their neutrality. I think this applies to Bhishma also. Speaking about V.R. Krishnaiah, Nani Palkiwala said that Justice V.R. Krishnaiah would have had the immense satisfaction that he stayed in the law and in the world for 99 years to do good justice. Justice V.R. Krishnaiah had great love for mankind. For want of time, I don't want to deal with K.M. Munshi, Alladi Krishna Somayaji, C. Rajagopalachari, V.O. Chidambaram Pillai, R. Venkatraman, T. Prakasam, A.T. Pannir Selvam, who belonged to the Thanjavur bar. And I am not referring to the great lawyers like Mohan Chand Karamchand Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru and others for want of time, and their contribution is more as patriots and freedom fighters and not as lawyers. It is impossible to do justice to this great preeminent personality within the short span of time. I seek the apology of Maharaj Vimurtananda for not mixing Tamil and English except saying Vanakkam. Thank you. Nandri Vanakkam. Thank you.